Hello and welcome to The Blueprint, a Chelsea FC tactics podcast. Soon and I are analysts on X, where we share tactical breakdowns of Chelsea matches and discuss other interesting talking points. In this podcast, we'll be doing the same, diving even deeper into the details. But before we start, how are we doing, Soon?
Well, we are bouncing after a big win, very important win. Yeah, and it's good to see we're back into the top four. We're a weekend of results where a lot went away. Yeah, a lot.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, I'm good. What about
Yeah.
you?
Yeah, doing well, doing better now. And yeah, Chelsea back into the top four. It was a crucial game. I think it's important to also discuss the pre-match environment or pre-match expectations, where even with the whole transfer window drama that's always there at Chelsea, I've sensed a feeling of confusion, frustration, and just lots of lack of clarity within the Chelsea fan base on where the current season was going. It's not that it was a whole disaster. I mean, we're still in top four contention, but it was just a bit about, our January strategy and how we were really operating within the transfer window. So a game in between all that, especially I think it was after deadline day as well. Um, it helped settle things down, so the win was crucial for that. So yeah, let's get into the tactics and the tactical battle that happened on Monday night. So could you explain to us how the game started? We mainly saw Chelsea dominating possession. So what did you notice with Chelsea on the ball, and how did West Ham set up to defend Chelsea's structure?
Diamond midfield to face when we're facing a back five. That's how Maresca usually does. So anytime we had the ball, obviously we had our three centre backs, with James tucked in into right centre back from his right back position. Um, Cole became the left centre back, then Tosin the central centre back. Then you have Caicedo as the deepest, the base of the diamond midfield. You also had Enzo on the right side of the diamond midfield, Palmer at the tip of the diamond midfield, and Korea inverting from left back as the left side the diamond midfield. So, and West Ham started with the back five. They used a 5-2-3 to defend. I remember when we talked about similar against Wolves, that why the teams use a 5-2-3 against a diamond midfield that gets
Mhm.
naturally overloaded. Yes, but it was quite interesting the way West Ham did theirs, because it was not. It was a bit similar to Wolves in the sense that they tried to they tried to maybe put the centre backs under pressure. But Wolves didn't do that as much as West Ham did yesterday. So the three, which was Kudus, Bowen, and Soler, were were hell bent on making our centre backs make a mistake. Like they were just hell bent on pressing our centre backs a lot of the time. They didn't give them so much time on the ball, especially Kudus on Kowu. Um, Kudus really was touch tight on the guy when he got the ball. So West Ham, but for most of it, West Ham had to drop deep into their half to also prevent Chelsea from easily playing through. But it also came it's sort of a high line from West Ham that we could also pick out Jackson in behind as well. But those didn't really get lead to 1v1 goal threats. I think they just allowed us to start our attacks a bit faster and get ourselves into the final third to make West Ham sit back. Yeah, it was almost defense versus attack at times. You know, first half.
Mhm. Yeah, yeah, like you said, um, Chelsea, I wouldn't say, I mean, sort of struggled, but at the same time, West Ham defended their spaces fairly well too. So Chelsea did struggle to create many high volume or just high volume chances, and high quality chances consistently. But there were moments where Chelsea did break West Ham, and how I saw it was that mostly came in the transition and the offensive transitions where Chelsea are and have proved to be lethal throughout the season. So we did create chances, came close with Enzo Fernandez, Jadon Sancho, Noni Madueke as well. So we did come close a few times. And if I'm not wrong, according to SofaScore, we created under less than one XG. So again, it wasn't much, but there were moments for Chelsea to capitalize. But yeah, as mentioned, West Ham defended well too. Along with that, I'd also just like to touch upon Chelsea's out of possession work because that contributed to Chelsea's in possession dominance. And what I quite simply mean is possession control. So, Sun and I discussed this at length in the City episode, where we talked about how Chelsea were hesitant to transition their press from a zona to a man-to-man. But we saw that against West Ham, and I think it was an immediate reaction from Maresca after that game. I mean, there's an argument to be made that Maresca would have done the same regardless, but I just felt like there was an extra bit of energy that we haven't seen in recent weeks, and sharpness as well. There was good cohesion between the players. So that ability or intent to transition their press from a zonal to man helped Chelsea retain possession and retain control for extended periods throughout the first half.
Okay, yeah. So as we said before, though, that West Ham's West Ham, although they were deep, they weren't trying to just sit off without any pressure. And Cole and Kudus, yeah, it actually had been going on in the game even before. I think Kudus even fouled Cole in such a similar situation as well, which Cole using the ball. Me and my brother at that point in time was like, "Yo, Cole, you're lucky there. Like you're lucky to not lose the ball, and you're lucky that it was given as a foul, which was rightly a foul, rightly so, but um, it was close, and I don't know what went through. Maybe Cole thought it was a foul. It did tell the referee that he thought it was a foul, which was very soft. And there's as well, I noticed Cole in those kind of situations, even sometimes in a box in our box. Do you notice those times at times that where the striker grapples Cole, at times it might not be the strongest enough, and he gets a foul in those situations. But at times I wonder that I'm wondering where the day that those don't get given as fouls, I'm a bit um yeah, I'm a bit skeptical there in those moments. But I think he can be stronger in dealing with those a bit more commanding in those situations. And yeah, he's 21, so there's a lot to learn as a 21-year-old centre back. Yeah, so I think, what do you think about that?
Yeah, I thought on the ball sometimes it's a tendency we've seen before as well, where he sometimes is a little hesitant on the ball, where he maybe takes a little too much time
True,
than he
true.
should, you know?
Too
And I
much
think that's
time.
something you
Yeah.
talked about that on your on one of your posts as well, if I'm not wrong, yeah?
Yeah, yeah, you're not wrong. You're not wrong at all.
Yeah, so
You're not
yeah,
wrong at all. It sometimes does that thing.
And it's something we've discussed, I think, on the very first episode as well, where we talked about how Chelsea shoot themselves on the foot sometimes, where there was a good argument that the game was very one-sided in the first half. West Ham did not create
Extremely.
any, yeah, just almost nothing. And then we give that chance away towards the end of the first half and really kills all the momentum we were building because we were doing many things right. Again, many points we've already discussed before. Like I've previously criticized Chelsea's inability to control the tempo of matches, right? That was something I mentioned Chelsea improved on in the Wolves game, lost that a
True.
bit in the City game, but then on Monday night they did well. They controlled the tempo really well. And then it was just that careless error where Colwell made a terrible mistake. There's just no two ways about it. Just shouldn't have tried that
Yep.
pass. He was not balanced enough
Yeah,
to try to make that pass.
yeah, exactly. I think it's not like it's not really that terrible in his right foot, but times he can, yeah, of course, he can definitely improve his right foot. And also in that sense of control that you just mentioned, um, I noticed too as well, like you said, the energy levels of the squad was pretty high, higher than in previous weeks, almost as high as first half of the season, where we really had a good press and counter press, and uh, it was very encouraging to see as when we lose the ball, how quick we and effectively we counter press them. It was very good to see how much we counter how well we counter press them. And Kukurea immediately on his bike to stop the nearest players to the ball, try to win the ball. Did you notice that as well?
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah,
yeah. So,
it was really encouraging, very encouraging.
mhm. Yeah, and I think throughout the team as well, I think the wingers put a good shift in. I'm always critical, or rather, I keep a close eye on how the frontline press works because I mean, obviously, you need the whole team to perform their functions together, right? That comes from the striker to even the goalkeeper with how he positions himself. And yeah, I was pleased with how Chelsea performed from an out of possession sense, which isn't something I've said since the start of December. To be honest, I haven't said it much. So yeah, that was pleasing to see. And another thing I want to touch when it comes to Chelsea's in possession work. We saw Enzo Fernandez and Cole Palmer play in the half spaces and the number 10 slot, with Cucurella occupying the left-hand space. But we saw a lot of movement from those two, especially Palmer and Fernandez. They constantly dropped in and out of West Ham's defensive block to try and help with the build-up or try those penetrative passes from deep, maybe pull some West Ham players out of position as well. But I think West Ham did well to prevent that from happening. Where I think against Wolves, it was too easy for Chelsea to sometimes pull out players out of position or cause that overload. Where against West Ham, although that overload was there on paper, I don't think Chelsea really benefited, or rather took advantage of those that numerical superiority on West Ham's back line. So that's a good job done to them from a defensive standpoint for a fair portion of the game. But in possession, they weren't really creative. But yeah, so West Ham did not create much from their in possession work, especially when they were trying to attack whilst in their in possession, like settle in possession structure, which would often look like a 3-4-3 with their wing backs pushing up and their wingers, quote unquote wingers, dropping towards the half spaces because they're not really wingers. I mean, Kudus and Soler are much better operating in the half spaces. So West Ham's biggest threat was in the transition, in the offensive transition. That's because Chelsea, with their 3-1-6 rest defense structure, which is obviously their in possession structure, it was something West Ham could get at, especially down the wings where there would be space if the white centre back was pulled maybe too deep into West Ham's half. Yeah, so we didn't see West Ham create much, but they still got that goal by halftime. And then in the second half, Maresca started the same. The team was the same. There weren't any changes, but just 5 or 6 minutes later, Maresca quickly made those changes. So could you just walk us through what those changes were and how they impacted the game?
Maresca actually made subs really good, and it was very refreshing because I don't know why whether he was waiting for Felix to go before he started to show his full arsenal of, and to be fair too as well, Giyu wasn't probably ready as he was at the beginning of the season now as he is now. He has probably grown in his style of play as well. So it's good to see how he came on really early and I think the first subs he did was, and I mentioned because I think one of the things we were doing to break West Ham down was also put crosses in the box. If we didn't talk about it, I think we can also highlight it because if when we push them back enough, um, Nani, especially on the right, because Sancho almost cannot cross to save his life at times, but it doesn't just want to or something like that. But um, for right, you had Nani and you had James who can put in crosses and good crosses. So James pushed up so much, and the space was there for him to put those crosses into the box. So I wanted Gil to be on the pitch because Jackson, we know, isn't the best box striker to be able to attack these crosses. So Gil came on, Neto came on for Sancho, and I was shocked for that period of time, 5 minutes before the next set of subs. We probably only put the box. It was Palmer who did that. So I felt we should have prioritized crossing. We were doing different. We crossed even a lot more in the first half of the second half. Maybe it was West Ham too that limited us. But I felt we were stopping our own momentum. We could get to the wing, and instead we tried a shot from outside the box. Or Enzo, there was a time Enzo almost head-butted, forgotten the player when we were in attack. So all those things just stopped the momentum that we're building, and it was kind of annoying. And we didn't put enough in the box for Gio. And but you could see the impact of just even trying to find Gio in the box, Neto's cross to Gio. When Neto eventually moved to the right and only went off, and Kuku came onto the pitch. So it was and chaos just took over the box and we got a goal.
It's something we didn't mention, but with Chelsea's in possession shape and West Ham's out of possession structure, there was space out wide. So we would often see wingers 1v1 against the West Ham wingbacks. And this meant that, again, as you said, Chelsea could cross it in, but without a box dominant striker, um, the upsides were a little lower than it could have been if we did have a box dominant striker. So what Enzo Maresca did to not negate
Like
that,
Kuku,
but
yeah, though.
yeah, yeah. So what he did to yeah, so what he did to not counteract that, but just help support that a bit that issue of not having the right personnel is he tried to flood the penalty box. We often saw at least five or four players occupy some position in the penalty area, which was good to see. And it's not something I think we've seen a lot this season, where Chelsea have really had an intent to flood the opposition penalty area. So the first goal comes from that, where Chelsea get a cross in from the right through Pedro Neto, who had shifted to the right flank. And then he gets the cross in. Marquinhos almost connects with it. It's just by like a centimeter or a millimeter where he misses the ball. It falls then to Cucurella, who sort of swipes it back into play for Fernandez to shoot, gets blocked, and Neto's movement leading up to that, like during that period, is something I wrote like a very short thread on as well, where his movement leading to his finish for the first goal was actually really good. It was really clever. He was switched on to make that movement onto the into the far post, but and his his opposition wing back, that's Emerson, who was playing as left wing back for West Ham. He just wasn't switched on. So props to Neto for that. So yeah, Chelsea get the equalizer 1-1, and you could see the switch in tempo and that motivation to get the second. And the second didn't come too late. It came just 10 minutes later through Cole Palmer. This was a slice of luck, which I'd say it's fair to say that which Chelsea have lacked more generally this season. It's Cole Palmer in the left half space trying to do something on his own. he drives at the West Ham defense, gets a cross, comes short in from the left side, takes a very fortunate deflection and from Wan-Bissaka and goes into the top right corner. And yeah, that puts Chelsea 2-1 up. And just a quick word on Cole Palmer. I thought in the second half, he took more responsibility himself to make things happen. So I'd like to hear what you
True.
thought on that, on how he just took the ball now and now tried to create something on his own in terms of chance creation as well as goal scoring.
Yeah, it was good to see Palmer take, and it didn't just work out. At times he lost the ball a few times. Well, you could see he was trying, but it was like in the second half, he, he got of more life. It, funny enough, it's funny that when he got subbed off, as the more on he grew in strength, and I also loved something he did because a lot of the time we complained, we talked about it on the pod as well. We complained about the work rates and the efforts we put in against City. So it's like that was really emphasized in the week because of the way Palmer ran about 50 yards to stop a counter or an attack of for West Ham. Followed this man and he reached the half and took the ball off him. So it was good to see Palmer take a bit more responsibility. And if you don't shoot, you don't score. So it's something that we can look at. And he just forced whether it was a shot or a cross, I think it was a cross, but he just forced something to happen and we ended up scoring. I still think we would have ended up scoring if we didn't score that. And I penciled him down as someone that should score yesterday. So it was good to see. It was good to see that happen as well.
Yeah, yeah, it's good that we've got Palmer to make that bit of magic when we need to, and it's a broader issue as well as you could see it as a positive in some light. I think it's something we could discuss over a whole episode where Chelsea have relied on Cole Palmer and Nicholas Jackson for their goal creation and finishing. And that was another example of it where Palmer had to make things happen, right? Yes, Neto contributed. That was great. But again, Palmer was on the score sheet. And yeah, that helped 2-1 up. And for the remaining period of the game, I'd say Chelsea did fairly well to control proceedings. Um, it's something, again, I've been critical of before. It's something I keep a close eye on about how Chelsea can control game states and just the situation of the game. It's again a criticism that I mentioned in the last episode where I said when Chelsea were 1-0 up, they should have pressed on the gas more. But in this game, when you're 2-1 up, it's been a very close game. It was all about killing the tempo now and making sure that West Ham were nullified and any momentum they tried to build was nullified from the beginning. And I'd say Chelsea did that fairly well, but I wouldn't say completely well because there were many situations that I saw, around like five or six situations that I saw, where Chelsea tried to force a third goal where I didn't think it was necessary. And it was maybe not even a third goal. Sometimes even it was just forcing ball progression where you're trying to switch at a time when that's not needed or trying to go forward when maybe you should hold back. And it's a lack of experience in the squad and in the players. But funny enough, I think that point is validated by Nkunku in the sense of he, for the most part,
Ooh,
yeah.
I wanted to say the same thing.
Yeah, he for the most part just uh helped that in a way that you could see him slowing down. You could see him wanting to kill that tempo off. And whenever Chelsea tried to push forward too quick, he would cut back and okay, make the slow pass to the defensive line and help them recycle possession, etc., etc. So yeah, what did you think of that?
Yeah. And Nkunku was like you guys are rushing too much. You guys should just calm down a bit. Like at times, Lukaku was trying. There was one time they gave him a ball on the counter, and he just, yeah, there's no need for this. Let's go back.
Yeah, 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 yeah. Yeah, so yeah, I think that's exactly what was needed. And we also saw, just to mention, Chelsea made a few changes during the second half. One of them, I mean, all of them did not change the base structure within which Chelsea played throughout the game. But the small change was Nkunku playing in the left half space with Cucurella overlapping. Again, this is a topic we could just discuss in real detail in another episode. But since we're running short on time, I think we'll save it for later. But yeah, we saw that again after a little while, and yeah, that was about it. Chelsea closed off the remaining period of the game, although a bit nervy in some instances. Chelsea did all right, and in the end, they walked away with all 3 points. So now, looking forward, we've got Brighton in the FA Cup, and then Brighton in the league again after that, actually, two games back to back against Brighton at the Amex as well. So both games will be away and they're just around 6 days apart. So yeah, I'd like to hear your closing thoughts and what Chelsea have in store next against Brighton and what Brighton will have in store for Chelsea.
It's going to be interesting because we're going to face a high line, and it has been a while that we fumbled really hard to not exploit that. So um, I I feel that's obviously that's Jackson's kind of game. They destroyed in the previous game, and of course they want to. I think they've not been in great form, so they want to play a lot well. So it's good to be able to exploit that as well, and if we're able to take those that 3 points and the next round of the FA Cup, hopefully.
Yeah, as you said, Brighton aren't in great form. They've lost their last two games. 1-0 against Everton 2 weeks ago, and the last game was quite bad. It was a
Crazy,
set.
crazy.
It was quite bad. I thought the game ended at 5-0. I'm looking at the score now, it's 7-0. So it was worse than I thought.
Wow.
But yeah, even I was surprised. I have to double check that. But yeah, last game was 7-0. So they might have a bit to prove when they face against Chelsea. Might be a bit extra motivated after that humbling defeat, to put it nicely. But yeah, it's gonna be a tough game nevertheless.
Yeah, think about your life. The 7-0.
Yeah, that's something I can't imagine how the Chelsea fans would react if they've faced a 7-0 thrashing. But let's keep that aside for now. But yeah, that's it. We've covered the entire game. Happy that Chelsea got all 3 points. And on to the next. So thank you, Sun. Thank you for joining. And we'll see you guys all next week.